Hello dear students, I'm going to record some feedback for the oral presentations we had this week. This project is students individually or in teams explaining how to write the different kinds of texts we have agreed in class to write during the course, okay? We were meant to start doing the OPs in January, which was the end of the first quarter. We didn't know this till December. Well, it's COVID year, it's the second COVID year, so everything is very hard and we have to be very flexible. And anyway, there were a lot of people missing because they were ill after the winter holidays. Well, we had all kinds of difficulties, obstacles, and well, we started now and this week, which is the third week in February. This week we have had 2 oral presentations by 2 different teams. We had the team that broke the ice because they had to explain how to write the following texts: business letters and business websites. Well, they had to give us some ideas about business websites, how business websites are written, the texts in them. And the second team was going to tell us about how to write argumentative texts, okay? So let me start with my feedback to these groups and to these wonderful people. First of all, thank you for having done such good work. It was very exciting to listen to you, and it was wonderful. And people are going to post a written version of their work, so that students can include it in their writing files. In their writing files, they will have a section for the theory and a section for practice, because after the theory comes practice, and they will be writing those kinds of texts. About the OP on business emails and business websites. That was presented by Jose and Sergio, okay? Jose and Sergio speak English fluently, and they are used to using their English on a daily basis at work. So they are very fluent and communicative. The issue at the academic level, what I see, I mean, I wouldn't have any trouble if they or we decide their promotion to the second year of the C1 level. Of course, no problem with that, because their level is good. But I think that they should use this year to work on their list of mistakes, along with the list of useful language. And you should read the C1 resource pack, what I say of that, and then talk to your classmates and talk to me. You know, in class we can talk about this. I want everybody to work on this. But for you too, as you use your English every day, there is a particular problem. And the problem is, because you can communicate successfully, because you can succeed in communicating in English every day in your jobs or with the people you communicate with, you have some fossilized mistakes that are very hard to improve without conscious work, without not only unconscious work, you know, like listening to English and all that, but also conscious work, conscious learning, not only unconscious learning, okay? And in the case of Jose, I think that the most outstanding obstacle is the tendency to practice literal translation in whole structures, in sentence structure, okay? So my proposal for Jose would be, try to identify where you have mistakes in literal translation in sentence structure. Find what is the English word order, the English syntax for those mistakes. Not like, for example, when we say, I want that you come, and the sentence is, I want you to come to my house, not for a visitor or to drop by. Well, this is not a mistake you make because you're at the advanced level, but I mean that kind of thing. Okay, I'm giving you a clear example of what I mean by mistakes in sentence structure. Okay, so maybe you can identify some of those. When you write, I can help you because I give you corrections like that. When you speak, I try to do it also. Maybe you can have a look at the picture, at the photograph. I sent you the list of mistakes. I don't know if there were any mistakes on sentence structure, but anyway, I collected some mistakes that you made when you spoke, remember? You should also, of course, include those. And anyway, you could have a look at that, okay? And identify, you can work on the other mistakes too, okay? We all need to work on all of our mistakes, okay? I make many, so, me too. Okay, and and for Sergio, as I always tell you, basically the most confusing feature in your English for me is when you don't include the subject or tenses, no? When you use the present and you need to use a tense or things like that, no? This is a typical mistake more people make, okay? And I would like everybody to pay attention to this. Now, I am recording feedback on individual mistakes because everybody has some of those problems, so please don't ignore this video because it's not about you, okay? Everybody, please, everybody, consider my words as if I were also talking to you, okay? Okay, so you two who are lucky enough to be able to communicate in English with a good level, try to use this course, which is also it's communicative, but you have we can teach you much more academic stuff too, and how to be aware of language issues, language awareness, and be resourceful, know how to deal with language questions and know how to deal with textual questions. Use this course to learn more. Don't sit back and relax in the good things, in the things you control, in your comfort zone, okay? Work also in those areas where you don't feel as comfortable whenever you have time. Don't be afraid because the other issues are going to stay the same. You're going to be the same person. You're going to be somebody who can communicate fluently. Okay, so that was about your English. About the oral presentation itself, as I told you in class, I was inviting you to stand up and address your classmates, because with a mask and sitting down and, well, addressing a topic, a matter which is not ordinary because you selected business emails and business websites. I mean, business websites, it's totally original. Nobody has ever addressed this issue in class. Business emails is more Well, nobody has addressed it either in my courses, but I prepared the notes because I thought it was a good thing to learn about, right? So I was very happy when you chose this. And business websites, I also think it was a very good idea to tackle this, right? But of course, you were sitting, you were speaking with masks on, and the topic was alien for some people in class, and I was wondering if people could follow. So in the physical sense, if you compare the physical presentation, the outreach, no, of your words. If you compare your presentation, your OP, Jesus, Marina, and Carmen's oral presentation, we can use one S because the OP was by them three. Okay, so if you compare that, people, you will see the difference. Can't you see the difference? The difference was that it was much easier to follow the other oral presentation because they were standing, and of course because they were pointing to things. That is why I stood up as a teacher. I stood up and I started using the whiteboard to try to write down some words so that students could follow more or less what you were saying. But because I am a teacher, I also had to jot down some keywords for your list of mistakes. So that was not very helpful for students maybe. But anyway, so I would like you to improve that. We need to learn to speak in public because in life, at work, we are always speaking in public. We are always speaking in public. Like in my job, I'm always speaking in public. In your job, Jose and Sergio, you're always speaking in public. And it's very important to learn to be aware where we are and when we are speaking in public and when we need to speak in a certain register or not, in a certain way or not, okay? So that's about that. About teamwork, I already told you, I know that men are not taught in patriarchy to work in teams because they are taught the values of being very competitive and aggressive. But but you two are adorable men, adorable people, and I know that you didn't have much time to get together and all the obstacles. But as Carmen said for their OP, she said, we were always together, though we never met. Remember when I asked them, wow, what wonderful teamwork. I mean, how did you do it? And when they explained how they prepared their OP, Carmen said, we were all the time working together, but we never met. Because today, we have emails. We can create WhatsApp groups, little groups if we want to. You have our Talking People eCampus, where you could, create a little forum to deal with your matter or ask me to create a group or something. I mean, we have we have video conferences, okay? So for the end of course project, because everybody is going to have to prepare a dialogue or a conversation with somebody else, an oral, a speaking activity with somebody else or with some other people. Remember that I will also give you feedback on your progress on teamwork abilities, teamwork skills. About the content of what you said and the relevance of what you said and your content structure, how you organized the information and all that, that was all good. That was all good, okay? It was very good when students contributed things that were missing. For example, in business emails, the source that Jose found were my notes, as I mentioned before. It's very important to include the data protection information, as Paola said, and all that. That's important when you prepare your information for everybody's writing files, to try to include what you learned from the audience's comments. In the same way, you can improve what you wrote from what I am saying now. Well, I don't know if it will be useful for that, but you can review your notes and improve them before you post them for our final publication. And remember, your notes will also be published in the end of course project. So, did you help people learn about business emails and business websites? Yes, I think you did. I think you said some interesting things. Did that help them, or does that help them, business emails? They can use that information to improve the writing of business emails. What Sergio so creatively, because he had to look for, I think Sergio used a lot of different sources because he was trying to create his own website, so he put together a very personal thing. Can that information that Sergio put together help us create a website? Well, the complexity of creating a website is great, but he gave us some very useful tips to keep in mind. So I do think that can help us too. Okay? But remember that creating a website and learning the language of online texts, not online participation of people who use text, but from people who create websites and blogs, well, that's an issue where we have more responsibility to learn to know what kind of texts we need to produce. Okay, I always recommend you to read similar texts, and I recommended people to check out the Reddit website, because my mind totally blew. I was totally impressed by the Reddit website. Minimalist, totally minimalist. But of course, you can compare different websites to think about what Sergio said, for instance, and this helps us consolidate things, and this also helps us select the information which is most useful for our own purposes. Okay? Now, I am going to give some feedback to the second group that performed. So, about Jesus, Marina, and Carmen's OP on argumentative texts, the most outstanding thing was that it was very communicative, very easy to follow, very clear. I think it was very useful because it was very to the point, very things were very practical. I mean, selected very for the purpose of writing an argumentative text to help students do it very well. It was, of course, argumentative texts are explained in many places, and there's a lot of information on how to teach to write argumentative texts as compared to the information we can get on how to write business, and it's a more alien topic. Okay, in any case, they did extremely well. Their presentation, in terms of their physical presentation of things, and in terms of how easy it was to follow what they were saying, was a 10 out of 10. I mean, it was outstanding. It was wonderful. Their teamwork was wonderful, because they even shared the PowerPoint presentation, which was very clear. It was not full of text. I mean, the big mistake was that there were some mistakes in the English, and that when I mentioned those mistakes, somebody said, "Oh, but you corrected it, Michelle." I mean, if I had corrected that, I mean, if I corrected that, for sure, I wouldn't. That wouldn't be like that, okay? You cannot tell. You have to accept the mistake yourself, because the teacher would not have made that mistake in the English, okay? Do you see what I mean? Can you tell me in class if you understand this, what I mean? I have no trouble accepting my mistakes, but do you see what I mean? If you are given feedback saying, hey, be careful, you cannot make spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes in the text of a PowerPoint presentation. You cannot tell the person who is giving you this feedback, but it's your fault, so to say. You see what I mean? Okay. But except that mistake, it was a very good PowerPoint presentation. There was another little mistake, which was in the ending table where you had the connectors, and I could see the work you did on that, because it was not like any table that you get in any book. You worked on the categories, and you worked on the selection, and I could see that. But I missed another slide where you selected some of those connectors and set them in a context, in a sentence. Useful language. Do you understand? Useful language to show us those connectors in context. Okay? Because I always tell you, people, for future OPs, for your work on list of mistakes, because if you work on lists of mistakes and on lists of useful language is about words in isolation, I'm not going to be happy. And it's because it's not going to be useful. Because there are lots of tables with words in isolation which have not helped people to learn to use those words. You can have those tables, but then you need to do some research. Lifelong learning, to do some research in, I'm watching a TV series, I'm listening to the news, I'm reading this book, I find this connector that I have in my list. I'm going to copy this word, I'm going to add this word to my list of connectors. So you have your list of connectors, and then you have useful language, and you copy the sentence and you underline the connector. Do you see what I mean? Lists of tables of things without examples are not useful. And then you use the lists of useful language to read out the sentences and to continue, because when you read out the sentences, you remember, and then when you listen again to that connector in real life, or when you read it in a book, or when you read it in the newspaper, you say, I'm going to copy this other sentence to illustrate in my notes. And then you read more and more sentences using that connector. If it's your list of mistakes, you choose connectors you don't know how to use. Okay, so I have given the second group some feedback on the presentation itself, on their communicative power in terms of getting through to the audience. About the content structure and the relevance of the content, I have to say that it was very relevant and it was very well structured. First, we had Jesus telling us about the beginning of essays, right, and the title or the statement, and this gave me the chance to clarify, the question of the difference between getting a statement, like an essay statement, like an exam question, and the difference between getting a task where you are given a statement, but you are asked to produce an article for a local magazine, in which case you don't have to copy the statement or anything, of course. You just have to find a title, because it's going to be an article, and an article always needs a title. If you don't, if you send an article without a title, I mean, it's totally wrong. You see what I mean? So, and then if it's for a local magazine, it's not the same. The register, maybe it's not the same as if you send it to a major newspaper, mainstream newspaper in the country. You know what I mean? Okay, so, or okay, if you send it to an online newspaper with lots of followers, or with teenage followers, or it depends. Or I'm exhausted. Okay, so Jesus gave us information about the beginning, the introduction, the body, the ending, which in the case of argumentative texts, it was appropriate to have the conclusion, right? Because endings can be of different kinds, and the relevance of connectors, the importance of connectors and all that. So that was very good, and you have it in the PowerPoint. And he also made you aware of the issue. Relate the number of paragraphs to the number of words in your assignment, in your task description. Okay, relate it. Because when you are brainstorming and you are creating your outline, say, okay, in my first paragraph, I can address this question. How many words? 25. Minisaga was 50 words. 50, okay. Shall I have 100-word paragraphs or 50, 75-word paragraphs? And he mentioned that point, which I found a very good idea to mention. Particularly because if you go to certificate exams, you can train during your 2 years of study to reach the C1 level. You can train as you learn happily and freely without tension. You can train in this kind of exercise so that when you take your certificate exam, you are not stressed by that. You will be in command of the situation. You will know what to do, and you will do it very well and very fast and very effectively. See, if you train. Now, if you are not going to take the certificate exam, it doesn't matter, because you can train to do this, because it's interesting, because you develop a lot of parts of your intelligence doing different kinds of exercises, right? That's why language learning is so interesting for the development, or the keeping our intelligence alive, right? We use everything in our brain, because it involves so many things. Then we had Marina presenting. The content was also very interesting. She spoke about the before writing, how we could use different techniques to brainstorm, to gather ideas, and to organize those ideas visually. Okay. To continue brainstorming, and then to see our ideas laid out, and then maybe to select them, and to select them and create the final outline. Maybe you could have wrapped it up by mentioning the final outline. Okay, like after the brainstorming, mentioning the final outline. Maybe if you like, you can add it in your final thing, the importance of the final outline. But in any case, if you leave it like that, it's fine. You did a very good job too. Okay, and both of you, though you had some grammar mistakes, you were both very communicative, very natural, very it was a joy to listen to your English and to follow you, because you were so good communicators. Okay, so I would give your English an 8 in spite of the little mistakes. Okay, so relax. But I do recommend, as I told you in class, I recommend Jesus to keep an eye on your fossilized mistakes. I could see in that OP that you were already overcoming some fossilized mistakes. Okay, and then like with the use of modals, you used must formally correctly most of the times, and just once you said must to. So this means that you are actually moving on to a different stage of command over the production of must. And for you, Marina, as you know, I recommended more listening to English. Of course, check out my checklist for different kinds of listening exercises we can do as we listen to English. No? And the language awareness exercise, seeing the grammar as we listen, is something that you can do, so that to help you monitor your production when you speak English. When you speak English, you can check that your grammar is right, because English comes to you quite naturally, but you can improve also those little mistakes that you are able to hide. For instance, Jose and Sergio don't hide them, but you can. But teachers like me and like other teachers, because we are professionals, we can catch them. We know. Okay, so, but of course, when you, for like with Sergio and with Jose, you would have no trouble also, like Jesus, no trouble communicating with people, right? They will never correct you, but I'm your teacher and I love you, and I have to tell you, you can improve. You can improve further, okay? So do it, come on. And then Carmen came, and of course, well, Carmen is talkative in class, so she practices a lot, and she is very good. She's very good. She's very careful with her grammar, but she's very joyful. She speaks happily and courageously. Courageously, Carmen. My congratulations, because it's a joy to listen to you and to see you so happy and so courageous, always using your English, and so language aware. I have the feeling that you are very language aware. I mean, that you listen to yourself as you speak. This is something that other people need. This is a skill that all the students need to develop, that I also use when I speak. Okay, we teachers use this skill. We listen to ourselves as we speak. In case we make a mistake, we get the chance to correct it. Or in case we make a mistake, we get the chance to remember we did, so we can later look it up and see what went wrong, or what we need to learn, or whatever. So you should learn from listening to Carmen. You should learn how she does it. Okay? You can learn from listening to people. Okay? You can learn a lot. I would give her English a 9, or even a 10, but I'm not going to give her a 10 yet, okay, because I think that she can improve further, okay. And about the content, well, I already gave you my where you can improve, my criticism of where you could have improved the presentation, the part of the useful language, but the rest was perfect. I mean, it was very good. Okay. Okay, bye-bye. I hope this is useful for your Semana Blanca. And I hope when we come back, we continue with your oral presentations. I know it's going to be a surprise because I don't have the information of who is going to do what when, but I will continue to be flexible. and see what happens. Okay, big hug. Have a wonderful week.